Down. I am so excited to get into part 2 of our series with the Faithful series, FAITHFULL. The first part of the series is a 3-part series that I'm doing. I may extend it, but I know I got 3 sessions for you for sure. The first part was the story of Cain and Abel, and it was the faith to give. Understanding what comes along when you do decide to give your offerings or sacrifices, when you do decide to give to God. Understanding that that can bring upon evil spirits, spirits of murder, spirits of envy, jealousy, right? Those spirits loom, those spirits travel. They are constantly looking for a place to live. And sometimes they live in the people closest to us. And so we saw that in the story of Cain and Abel. But today we are discussing the faith to build, the story of Noah, which begins biblically in like chapter 6 through 9 in Genesis. But I think it's imperative that we go back slightly before that so that we can really get the full meaning and really get some juice out of this thing. So what we're going to do, we're discussing the faith to build, right? And you guys may be wondering, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does he mean? The faith to build what? And so metaphorically speaking, this could be, in its most literal sense, it could be the faith to build a business, the faith to build a brand, the faith to build a company, the faith to build a ministry, the faith to build a house, right? Or it could be the faith to build a legacy, right? The faith to build good habits, the faith to build generational, habits that break generational curses, right? So we're going to analyze this thing. And I've got some gems, I've got some nuggets, some great things that I want to share with you all about the story of Noah and his faith to build. So if we start off in chapter 6, which is the story of Noah, that's where it begins, chapter 6 through 9. What I want you guys to do is go a step before. Just go back to chapter 5 of Genesis and go to verse 29, where it says Noah's father, who was Lamech, he had belief, right? He had belief for his son. He had belief that Noah would be different, that Noah would be something special. And so this is my first point that I want us to get out of this Faith to Build series. And I'm going to read it from my Bible as we go. It says, Lamech named his son Noah, for he said, may he bring us relief from our work and the painful labor of farming this ground the Lord has cursed. So the ground was cursed, all right? There was wicked people everywhere. God was upset. Like the Lord was upset because everybody was living wicked. Everybody was living in their flesh. People weren't living righteous. So Lamech had belief in his future generations, who was on his way, who wasn't even there yet. Lamech had belief, right? And through his belief and through his prayers and through his foreshadowing of what he wanted, we can almost infer that because of the words that he spoke and for what he believed for his descendants and for his offspring to bring, that could have impacted Noah's life. And so that's the first point that I need us to understand with the midst of everything going on with the pandemic, with the protests, is to understand that if you don't have kids yet, if you do have kids, understand that your words and the things that you believe for them coming up after you can literally change their lives. I'm going to say that again. Your words and your belief can literally change your kids' lives. We see before Noah even gets here, and I'm going to read it to you again. This is chapter 5, verse 29. It says, Lamech named his son Noah, for he said, may he bring us relief from our work and the painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord has cursed. And so you need to believe that your kids can be the ones, that your kids can make a difference, that your kids can deliver your family from generational curses, not just you, but your kids. And so that starts now, before your kids even get here. If you already have kids, if you plan on having more, if you don't have them, this message is still for you. It starts now with the words that you speak over your kids' lives, because the words that you speak have an immense effect on their realities. And so a lot of people skip over this and they don't really see the impact that Lamech's words have on Noah. And we all see what Noah ends up doing. But it begins with the words of his father. And so I'm going to ask you this question. What words are you speaking over your life? What words are you speaking over your family's lives, over your friends' lives, over your children's lives? What words are you speaking? Because the words that you speak have an immense effect over, the outcome of your life and the people around you. That's point number 1. Understand your impact, folks. Understand what you can do and how powerful your words truly are. Point number 2, and I'm going to read as we go. we're going to be in chapter 6, which is where the story really begins of Noah and what God calls him to do. And I'm keeping it very simple, very general today. It says in verse 10 of chapter 6, Genesis 6 and 9. My mistake. That's Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. It says, this is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. So what we read, if we go just a chapter before in chapter or a verse before in verse 8, it says, but Noah found favor with the Lord. Okay, that's just a verse before. And it explains why he found favor with the Lord. This literally tells us that he was the only blameless, righteous man living on earth. And so things had gotten so wicked on earth. People were living in sin. People were living in their flesh. People just weren't righteous. Flat out, people weren't righteous. And so what we see is that through Noah's righteousness, he found favor with God. And so as we continue to read on, God asks Noah to build this beautiful ark, right? Build this ark. And what he says is, I'm going to wipe out everybody else on this earth. Listen to me. I'm going to wipe out everybody else. I'm going to wipe out all the animals. Everybody else is going to get wiped out because of their wickedness. But because of your righteousness, because of your good standing with me, because you're an honest man, because you're good, and because you stand in close fellowship with God, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow your wife and your kids and their wives to be on the ark with you when I send this flood, when I force it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So there's two components to that. Understanding that your righteousness and your good standing and your close fellowship with God can literally be the difference between your family not making it or your family making it. Now, this may seem like a lot of pressure that I'm putting on you, but just think about the times that we're in right now. We're in a storm right now. We're in the midst of a storm right now. And your righteousness, your good standing, your close fellowship with God could be the difference between your family drowning, being wiped away, being swept away in the storm, in the midst of this pandemic. But God can see your righteousness because God knows our hearts, and God could call you to be the one to save your family. It was only through his righteousness that Noah was chosen. The second thing that we have to realize about that is that when God called Noah, as we continue to read, Noah did not consult with his wife. Noah did not consult with his kids when God called him to do something. And so what me and you and our friends and our family members have to realize is that when God calls us to do something, when God tells you to build something, you do not have to converse and talk about it and share it and do a PowerPoint presentation with everybody around you. It's not for them. When God calls you to build something, just as he did Noah, you need to build it. Our obedience has to improve, and our faith and our action and our movements has to improve, because what God has called me to build is not the same thing as what he called my mom or my sister or my best friend or my girlfriend to build. It's just not. And so we don't see Noah seeking approval or asking his family members, hey, can you, do you think this is a good idea? Should I build this? No, because of his close fellowship and because of his obedience, Noah acted like that. Noah immediately began to build. Immediately. So through his righteousness, his family was saved. And he immediately began to build. He didn't go and consult it with everybody in the area. He didn't go consult it with his wife and say, hey, baby, listen, God spoke to me. Should I do this? No, because he was the only righteous person on earth. That means that wifey wasn't righteous. That means that the kids and his family members were not righteous. Think about that. He was the only righteous man on earth at the time. So why would he go and consult with his wife or with his sons and say, listen, this is what God has called me to do. Let me get your opinion on it. Why would I get your opinion if, number one, you're not even living a righteous life? There are spirits that could have attached themselves to you that just because I'm having a conversation with you could attach themselves to me. Spirits of doubt, spirits of upset, spirits of indecision, spirits of fear, right? And so when God calls us to do something, we have to understand that those conversations can be detrimental to us building what God has called us to build. That's my second point. The first point was the impact and the power that you can have over the lives of your kids, right? Through your words. Like through Lamech's words, he literally was like, listen, God, use Noah to deliver us and relieve us from this work, right? Use Noah. But through Noah's righteousness, this is the second thing, he was granted grace. He found favor with God because he was a righteous man, because he did the right thing. He was also obedient. When God told him to build, he went ahead and began to build, okay? And he saved his family. He didn't go and talk to them about it and ask for permission. No. When God calls you to do something, that's enough permission and validation right there. And the last point that I'm going to leave you guys with is that God obviously, okay, had Noah build something massive. And so when God calls you to build something, it could be scary. It very well may be scary. And I'm going to read to you guys in Genesis 6, verse 14 through 16, just so that we can have a picture of the dimensions of this ark that Noah built. These are the instructions. This is God telling Noah what to build. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar, inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. God's instructions in our lives are going to be very specific, okay? When God calls you to do something, it's going to be very specific. The Bible tells us that the steps of a good man, okay? The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, okay? So what God has called you to do, God will give you specific instruction, all right? God will give you specific instruction. But here's the thing, when God gives you that instruction, that's when faith or fear kicks in, okay? You have a job, you have an option. Am I gonna let the fear stop me? Or am I gonna let my faith kick in and get this thing done? Noah had great faith. Noah also had great fear, okay? And when I say fear, I mean he had a reverence for God, right? God told Noah, I'm gonna wipe out everybody with a flood and make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights. That had never happened before. So number one, you have to have the faith to build. Number two, you have to have the faith to believe in God saying the impossible is going to happen. Something that has not happened yet is going to happen. That thing was massive. The ark was massive. And so God is calling you to build something, and it could be massive. It could be scary, right? It could not feel good. It could take a lot of work. But I guarantee you, if it's from God and if God asks you to build it, it's going to get you through the storm. I guarantee you. I've seen it in my own life. It will get you through the storm. And even more, it can save your family. See what we're doing, this is not just about us. My decisions I make now, they're not just for me. They're for my wife, my future wife, my present girlfriend, my future kids, my mother as she's aging, my kids' kids. These decisions are going to impact them. And so what I build now can save my family. Ask yourself, what am I building? What has God called me to build that I'm not building? Because here's the thing, as human beings, we want to build what we want to build. And you could be wondering why what you're building isn't manifesting, isn't growing, right? Businesses keep failing. You keep trying different things. Things are not working. Could it be that it's because what you're building is outside of God's will? Could it be that what you're building is simply out of the flesh and not of the spirit? Could it be that what you're building has nothing to do with building the kingdom? Could it be that God has been speaking to you through other people, giving you instructions on what to do, but you're letting fear get in the way? We have to have the faith to build. Because through our faith to build, just like Noah, we can literally save our family's lives. Literally save your family's lives. But it's going to live in what you build now. Whether it's a ministry, a business, a brand, a product or a service, a house, a church. If God calls you to build it, you need to build it. Like Noah. He didn't go and consult with his family. He didn't go and ask for permission. Why would he ask them if he was the only righteous man? If he was the only not righteous person, the only person doing the right thing, why would he go and ask them for them to talk him out of doing it? Noah said, let me go ahead and get to work, just as the Lord had commanded. And through his obedience, through his faith to build and work hard. Because here's the thing with God too, God is not going to come down here and do the work for you. When God gives you instructions on what to do, you need to build it. You need to hustle. You need to put your gloves on, get your hammers and stuff, and get to work. Do you have the faith to build through all that's going on in the world? Protests, pandemic, racism, sexual abuse, everything that's going on in the world. Do you have the faith to build? You have to build something. If you don't build something, I guarantee you'll probably get outside of God's will and you'll end up building what God has given somebody else. Okay? I pray that something in this video helped you out, that it inspired you, influenced you. If the video didn't help you out, let me know. If there were any points that I could have hit on or any scripture that I may have read wrong or whatever, let me know, please. Hit me up on IG. Follow me on Instagram at Nate Jameson Speaks. My Twitter is Speak Nate Speak. My Snapchat is NJ Jameson. That's NJJAMESON. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, share this video, shoot it around, send it to everybody. I pray to God that this message blessed you. Peace.